Ciao a tutti, ciao Diego.
Ciao, oggi puntata speciale in English for a request for a friend of mine named John. So hi John, this is for you. And if you are more interested into an English version or you have any question, this is for everyone in the future. Just write in the comment below.
Yeah, cool. So let's do it. So
yes.
Let's try this first episode in English and let's see if you guys maybe prefer this one. Maybe we can reach more people or stuff like that. Even if the intent of the channel at the beginning was actually to target more of the Italian people, but if Italian people are fine with doing this, we can maybe switch over to English. Let's see. This is an experiment we're trying.
Yes.
So today is going to be an episode about design builds. This format is basically Diego talking through some design concepts. So it's not really tied to a game, but it's more, like a design concept talking. And today's episode is about game currency. So first of all, Diego, what's that? Explain what a game currency is.
Okay, so game currency, let's say the definition of it is any resource that can be actively exchanged by players for something else. Now, the really only important part of that definition is the word actively. What I mean by that is that you need to be able to decide to save the currency or spend the currency. If you didn't have this choice, then it's not a currency, it's something else. For example, if you have experience point and as soon you level up, and as soon, let's say you make 100 experience points, so as soon you have 100, you level up, then it's not a currency because you can't keep them. You can't decide it, oh, I want to keep this, I don't know, X point and maybe do 10 levels all in one go. No, you are forced to use them. So if something can be actively exchanged for something else, it is a currency. If it's not actively exchanged, it can be many other things. It can be progression, it can be many things, but it's not currency.
Cool. And if I think about currency, I always, like the first thing that comes to mind is money, right? Expend money and So what types of currency do we have in games?
Oh, okay. So in games, we have several types of currencies and macro types. And for each of these macro types, there could be one or more currency in a game. Of course, depends on the complexity of the game. For example, for like MMOs, you can have many currency. For like, I don't know, an indie game, you can have less. But in general, games have main currencies. Now, what usually is considered main currency is the type of currency that or you receive more commonly in the game. For example, for RPG could be gold coins. That's usually like anytime you beat someone, you get gold coins. Or could be a specific type of currency that is necessary to level up. For example, in Final Fantasy X, your spheres, the one that you put in the, actually, I don't know the English name of that, spherographia, is it in Italian? The spherography, I guess. So you receive the balls that they allow you to actually cash in. Yeah, that is the main currency of the game. Because you level up, but that's not currency, it's just exp, then you get the kind of this tiny sphere, and then you spend this sphere to get bonuses. So that's the main currency. So as I say, it could be more than one, it could be one, it depends on the complexity of the game. Then there are side currency. Side currency is anything that it's present in the game, but it's not used for the main progression. So for example, in The Witcher 3, in a certain way, Gwent is a side currency. Now, Gwent has his own progression, you get cards. Now, you can't actively exchange cards, so that's the reason it's not exactly a currency. But if you add the chance to exchange a card, that could be a side currency. Another side currency is basically anything that is related to, well, once again, take Final Fantasy X, guilds are side currency. You receive them a lot, but they are not necessary to complete the game. They're not necessary to proceed. So you can use them, of course, to equip better stuff, buy better stuff. But at the end of the day, especially in all Final Fantasy, any player that played any Final Fantasy knows that probably at the end of the game has 900 million and 900,000 and 900 because you don't need it. That's why it's side. It's not necessary. opposite to, for example, souls in Dark Souls, in which are both a main currency and expendable currency. Then we have special currencies. That's actually is more common on MMOs and mobile games. And it's basically the type of currency that you get when like there is the Halloween special.
Right.
Now, before we were talking about Borderlands.
Yeah.
And in Borderlands 3, very close now, there is the Halloween special. And doing the Halloween special, you need to defeat enemies. And when you defeat them, you collect, I think it's called Ghost Goo or souls or things like that. In any case, spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a special currency. You know, it exists only within the realm of the event, and it unlocks special stuff for that event, like special weapons and things like that. That's why it's usually more common on MMOs and mobiles, like the, I don't know, the Valentine Day special currency and things like that. Then we have minigame currencies. That's very present once again in RPGs, or for example, in the Yakuza series. In the Yakuza series, you go to the casino and you exchange the, let's say, the side currency for the minigame currency. Then you play the casino, you get more minigame currency, and then you exchange the minigame currency for special objects. Mm-hmm. So the reason why it's done that is because usually minigames can be cheatable, can be cheesed out. You know, like I'm gonna save and reload, so save scamming until, I don't know, I get the jackpot in a slot machine or things like that. So the reason why you want a minigame currency is because, yes, you can cheat, but even if you cheat, the maximum amount of stuff that you can get are these prices. And if we know that you're going to cheese out, we're going to make those prices basically balanced. So it's like, yeah. So basically it's like, oh, you're thinking that you're cheating the system, but you're not really doing it. It was designed to be cheated. And finally, the last one, it's meta currency. And we see that a lot on mobile and AAA, and also in PC sometimes, which is basically just any premium currency. For Magic Arena, it's Diamond. For Ubisoft products are usually called Ubisoft points, if I remember right.
Yeah,
yeah. And yeah, that's just like a currency that exists in order to be exchanged with real money in order to buy really whatever, cosmetic and things. Also, sorry, I forgot to tell that like I have a special background because there is Nordic coming. Northern Games event, the 25th and 27th of November, and I have a talk, so feel free to join if you're interested.
Awesome, we will.
Can't tell the talk name yet.
Okay, but I guess it will be announced like prior to the conference, right? So we're gonna be spamming what you're gonna be talking about as soon as we can. Diego, so yeah, to go back to the current stuff, how do you think, in how many ways the currency in game can be created and generated? And also if you can spend also some words and opinions on the actual, you know, the meta currency stuff. So like when the currency leaves the game and, you know, appear into the real life of the gamer. So like I have to actually pay real world currency money.
Yeah, real world currency.
To do something in game, which is a little bit, you know, like I would say is a little bit new in games, meaning that, you know, like old games don't have that because we didn't have any kind of technology to do that. And is at the center of a lot of, you know, talks and debates, whether this is feeling like gambling and the loot box and, you know, all this kind of stuff. That's an interesting stuff because this is also, you know, paying money to generate something in the game with a currency which is not really in game, is like across the world. So
it is. So I will start with the generation because it's the easiest question. So every designer, when make currency, needs to design what is called pervasivity. And the pervasivity, it's basically just a number that tells what is the number of things that is going to unique things that are going to generate that currency. Now, the higher the pervasivity, the easier it should be to get the currency because it means that there are lots of ways to get it. The lower is the pervasivity, the harder is to get the currency. Now, why this information is useful is usually for only two reasons. First of all, to make currency rare. So let's say that you have like, oh, this is the super secret currency, I don't know, end game stuff, and his pervasivity is 300. It means there are 300 unique ways to get that. So it's probably not that rare, really. Even if you're presenting it as like super rare, it's not really that rare because there are 300 unique ways to do it. So probably if you want to keep the concept of rarity, you need to reduce the pervasivity of that currency. So that's the first thing to understand it. If you are presenting something that has value and actually mechanically has value, basically it's avoiding dissonance between game intention or narrative and gameplay, which is something very important to do. Or the other reason instead is to understanding if your main currency is accessible enough. To give an example of that is, I don't know if you ever played Yakuza, any game of the Yakuza series.
Unfortunately not.
Okay, so just to give a very different example from Final Fantasy, really any Final Fantasy and Yakuza. So both games are RPGs, both games are technically JRPGs, so Japanese RPGs. And in both games, you need to collect currency to get stronger. Now, in the Final Fantasy, it changes the way that you do it. Like Sword Final Fantasy, it's not even a currency, it's just your level up. In other games like Final Fantasy X, you need to get these spheres. In any case, there are several ways. In Yakuza, you get experience. Let's call it experience. But it's expendable and you can keep it, so that's why it's a currency. But you can get it in any way. What I mean is that you punch someone, you get currency. You fight a boss, you get currency. You do a side quest, you get currency. You go eating a sandwich to regain energy, you get currency. You are doing a dating mini game, you get currency. So basically, everything is done in Yakuza to everything that you do, everything always push you to the progression that gets you better. Because technically talking, the very difference is that Yakuza is more a mini game plus a game. So this is what is the idea, is like that you have a main story and then you have an amount of mini games that you can do instead of the story, basically, or after the story or before the story. So for that reason, they needed to create a way that whatever things you do, you are always getting better. So they created this XP system that has pervasivity, I don't know, 300, whatever. I mean, it's gonna be a very high level pervasivity. While Final Fantasy, which are usually way more narrative, you know, you need to, I don't know, discover that secret plot twist and things like that. They want to keep their main currency very locked down, usually to main quest and fighting system. In that way, you can't over level up, or you can a bit over level up, but not too much.
Right.
If you want to progress, you have to actually
because they need more sort of control over the over the player in the game.
In Yakuza, it's fine if you, I don't know, you play the first chapter and then you spend 40 hours doing mini games.
Right.
That's fine. In Final Fantasy, any really Final Fantasy would be very weird. It's maybe possible in certain, not all of them really, but it's probably a weird behavior. And regards asking the microtransaction, I think that's probably a separate design field if you want to go in deep. But what I can say to you is that specifically, I'm not against microtransaction. On the concept, I think microtransaction is a great tool to actually sustain games, sustains studios, and a way also potentially to help the consumer too. Because making games is incredibly expensive, and if we want to keep the 60, 70 price tag, then you need to have microtransaction in order to make more money.
That's a good point.
Otherwise, you need to make games cost like hundreds euros. Maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if having microtransaction allow people that don't want to buy them to have 60. Let's say 70, 60 price tag, while other people are going to compensate that. Then, of course, what you said, it's very interesting. And there is a moral question. Like, a designer knows and they are more than capable to design game to not having microtransaction, but to force you to get a microtransaction, which is a very different thing. On that side, I'm against. You shouldn't be forced. it's something that you should be designing. So, for example, loot boxes is a very example. Loot boxes, there is a big discussion. Many times people say, for example, EA in FIFA gives better chances to both loot boxes in respect of in-game earned loot boxes. And on those kind of example, I'm not agreeing. This is wrong. This is pushing something that's not right. But on surface level, I'm not against, as I say. It's something that can be beneficial for both parties. Now, as everything, it can be corrupted, like a knife. I can use a knife to cut a stick. I can use a knife to kind of like stab you in the face.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And yeah, I mean, I guess one of the main points of these design builds is like we want to keep them short so we can condensate our information. But of course, if you have anything else to say about the currency, which I think you do.
Yes, it's the last thing that I want to tell. I'm going to be very quick. And as I say, if you are interested then into microtransaction, we can have like a really nice, more opinion chat than anything else. So what I want to share, it's a very basic thing, but very important for video game, which is the concept of hyperbolic discounting or hyperbolic discount.
And before we start talking about that, I want to show your tabs, which is something that we really missed. Like the number of tabs you've got, because I think the last video where we saw that is like
75. They are a bit lower.
75. Awesome. Yeah, just wanted to point that out because I know you've got fans just for that. So.
Oh yeah. I have to admit that thanks to friends of both, I actually moved to a way better browser for actually people like me who are obsessed with tabs, which is Vivaldi.
Right. Okay. I knew it.
Yeah, in general, like if you are obsessed with tabs like me, Vivaldi is the browser for you.
Is it just because like it can hold more than the usual number, or
you can do lots of things with tabs?
Okay.
Lots of things. You can hold more. You can kind of like group them. I can do lots of things with the
cool. I'm gonna check that out. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to, talk about something else.
75 is less than usual. Sometimes I'm around 80.
Right. Okay.
So hyperbolic discounting. Now, this is something that actually is being discovered and studied by economics people, but it's very, very useful in video game, especially in video game. I mean, it's useful also in real life, but as usually video games are designed, they are more efficient. What it is basically. Now, there's two elements very important about this. First is that, and that's very easy to understand, is the concept that we as human beings value things more if we are going to receive them closer in a time frame. So if I want to tell you, do you want 20 euros now or 60 euros in a year, you're probably gonna accept 20 euros now. Even if technically 60 euros in a year, it's 3 times more. So it's way better deal, but it's just in the future, and basically anything that is in the future for us as a human being is scary because, many things can happen. We can forget about it. A pandemic, virus can happen. I could die, you could die. I mean, many things. Or maybe the value of money disappear. Maybe in 6 months there is a huge inflation, and so 20, 60 euros are actually worth that. I mean, there are lots of things that scares us. Now, as I say, this is very intuitive, like everyone can understand that. Now, what is interesting is that when this thing was discovered, scientists, expected humans to have an exponential discounting thing. So they expected things that be very close to value a lot, and then things that are very distant to basically value nothing. As you can see, it's 0. Following this curve. So as you can see, it deviates in basically like, let's say 2 time frame, let's say that could be 2 days, whatever it is, you almost lose 80% of the value, of the perceived value. Now, of course, this is not could be 2 months, not 2 days, just to give an example. What was interesting is actually that it's not like that. The curve is hyperbolic. So actually it's like this. So in let's say 2 time frame, you don't lose 80% of the value, you lose around like, I don't know, 35% of the value. something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And no, sorry, not 45. Sorry, it's 70-ish% of the value.
Yeah, I mean it's close to 60, so it's a bit more.
Yeah. And the other difference is that past 4, they expected that the value basically kind of like stays the same. Okay, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the other thing. It's not true either. So actually, the curve gets slower, slower, and slower, and slower, and slower the time passes. Okay, so the more time passes, even like basically saying 1 year, and after 2 years, they expect it to be the same, but it's not. 2 years, it's still even less value than 1 year. So something more in the future is even worse. Now, why this is relevant for currency in video game? For basically 3 main reasons. So the first is that you can use this to create interesting choices for players by allowing them to say, oh, do you want something that actually is less valuable but now, or something more valuable but in the future? And this will be interesting because of that, because people would say, oh, I know that thing is less valuable, but I perceive it as more valuable for hyperbolic discounting.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the main first thing.
Is there any example that you have in mind for this kind of stuff, like any game that?
Well, yes, absolutely. That's basically any. Just I want to give a very simple example. Basically, any game there is a tower defense is basically based around entirely on this concept. In tower defense, you get money, and then you have to decide if you want to invest money into buy a new turret, which is less efficient than upgrading your current turrets, but it happened right now. You have the money to do that. Or you could save those money, those currency, and eventually invest into the biggest badass turret or the biggest object or power up. But it's very difficult. Sometimes, and I am one of these players, I just say, I can't take it anymore. I just gotta grab and take one of these shitty turret. And that's a bad decision. That is literally a bad decision. And this internal conflict, that's super interesting for designer, because basically it makes something that shouldn't have any conflict in something that has conflict, and that's great, because as a game designer, we want conflict, you know? If every decision is like this, instant and clear, then it's not an interesting decision. So that's one example. Another example can be you have to do all these 7 quests in order to get the super cool, incredible artifact. That's another example.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the first reason, creating this kind of like interesting choice. The second element that it's useful is because this tells you that sometimes something that players don't perceive value as something that is set in stone, by something that is based on your perception. So as designer, we can increase the perception of value based, for example, on hyperbolic discounting. And so that's another thing. The third element is, now, let's say there's only one object, okay? And it takes multiple times to get it, okay? So it's like a loot box, as you say. It's a loot box. Now, what tells you hyperbolic discounting is also that basically, the more time it requires to get, the less interesting the object becomes.
Mm.
So probably that's happened to you in, Monster Hunter.
Yes.
You played it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Okay.
yes. Together
Monster
all
Hunter,
of those materials and stuff like that to get
Exactly.
something that I liked, and then at some point, fuck, I won't play this game anymore.
Exactly. That's exactly that. That is, in this case, they failed. The designer pushed the time too much, and you basically surpassed this too.
Yeah.
And your perception of the value started to fall and say, you know what, it's not worth it. Now that is interesting, and it's very difficult because all designers want to aim to be in this exact spot around the two. That's the sweet spot. Mm-hmm. Because I mean that I can basically make the game longer and make you craving for something, which is good. But if I fail and you crave too much, then once again, hyperbolic discounting gets in and you say, you know what, fuck it, it's not worth it. And that's happened to me in Monster Hunter all the time. Oh, I really want that armor. I try 1, twice, 3. Oh, I really want it. 4, 5. You know what? Fuck
it. Especially when it comes to randomness. So it's not just up to you, like, okay, I'm going to put my skills to defeat that kind of monster 3 times, but no, it depends on the chances that you have that that monster is going to drop something. And then you really become really obsessed with the thing that you don't want it anymore. And it's like, it's not fair, I guess, right? I mean, I'm putting my time and my effort, I'm not getting it. So
as I say, like, you want to aim to the 2 spot, so the moment when the curve, because that's great, because actually that's great for the user too, because, you know, things are more valuable if you fight for it. So if I say, you know, here's the sword, take it, it's just like, okay. But if you have to work hard for it, it's more valuable. Of course, as I say, that's the sweet spot. If I give you the stuff too early, it's worth less. If I give you the stuff too late, then you might not want it anymore and get frustrated. Now, there is no mathematical experience, mathematical magic formula to understanding what is that sweet spot. It depends on the game. For example, certain games require you, and they get used to have more grind into it. So the sweet spot can be a bit further, and other games can be for more casual audience. So the sweet spot is a bit behind. It's something that needs to be tested. But in general, everyone as game designer wants to reach that super tiny sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, it's super cool. I think I'm gonna be checking this out, this hyperbolic discounting stuff. Because
hyperbolic discount.
I have some questions, but I want to, you know, learn a little bit more, and maybe in the next video I'm gonna be bothering you. But also, yeah, it's one other topic that we can cover in another video would be the utility. So like the value of different stuff, such as time, such as money, such as, you know, the currency itself.
Absolutely.
Which is
resources.
Which is a good topic for game design, but also AI. Like there are a lot of, you know, like how good is a certain decision, and like there are bots and games built on the utility system. So I think this is gonna be maybe a not short design builds, but I'm interested.
An interesting one.
Yeah. And it's also, you know, kind of connected with what you talked, because it's you know, it's like, do I want this now? Because probably if you think about, you mentioned tower defense, right? But if you think about like an RTS, like I don't know, StarCraft, right? You maybe want to be like, it's not always a bad decision to have something which is a little bit shit, but now, because probably you're getting, you know, attacked and something like that. So and
that's the reason why I cited the tower defense, because in tower defense strategy, it's present, but it's way lower. What you are saying is absolutely correct. In an RTS, StarCraft, you can do rush. So you can do the classic rush. So that's worked in a strategic way. That's a different thing. But there are many ways in these things can be used. I really use that example because it's the most common and simple example, but really it's also works for cosmetic. Cosmetic is another way that a lot of time people do. You know, you can buy this, I don't know, wing, it costs 100, or you can save for 1K and buy the entire costume, and you want that costume. But when you are around 500, you start thinking, oh God, I can't take it anymore, you know, I'm just gonna buy the wing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, that's cool. Awesome, Diego. If you don't have anything else you want to talk about, oh, cool.
I would think that we should have to keep it small, otherwise I could talk for like 3 hours.
Totally, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, that was really interesting as usual, and I guess this is it. Let us know if you like more the Italian version of it, or this one, or if you don't mind. And I guess I'll see you next time. Thanks, Diego.
Bye.
Ho preso un Samsung
ricordo che tu hai preso quello con i punti, giusto? Bastardo,
sì,
te, i tuoi punti, figa.